Hi everybody, I hope you are enjoying this virtual conference. I hope you got some good tips out of John and Emily and Sarah's talks, and I hope your wheels are turning and your heart is being tugged and you're starting to sense that light getting brighter, and that you're seeing God's light in your life right now. And I just want to get the elephant out of the room right now. So my talk is on in-person events, and this was supposed to be an in-person event, and it's a virtual event. So once again, God shows me that He has a sense of humor. And I thought about changing the topic entirely, because I kind of feel a little bit like a hypocrite right now talking about in-person events when we made this in-person event a virtual one. But after prayer and thinking and just looking up and being like, okay, God, yeah, you have a sense of humor. That's good. But still, what am I supposed to talk about? And while all this was going on, the youth minister at my parish contacted me, and he, after I read the Be Yourself Journal like 3 years ago. It came out, and the boys one finally came out this year, and I've given that girls journal over and over again to our DRE, to the nuns that live at my parish, to my pastor, and nothing's really stuck. But this year, the youth minister in my parish, they're going to use both the boys and girls journals. So I'll get back to that. So anyway, I'm thinking, do I change my topic? And if I change my topic, what do I change it to? But other things are happening, in life. And I've kind of gotten to thinking about how this pandemic, as annoying as it can be, as sad as it can be, as troublesome and confusing, it also, with everything, we can see a silver lining. And I think in the very beginning, when everything closed down, we were forced to look at our domestic church, our immediate family, who was under our roof. If we lived alone, we really had to do some soul searching and some looking at, our families and our immediate community, which is our family, or whoever lives under our roof. And if we live alone, we might have done some serious, had to really look in our hearts and our personal life and our relationship with God in a way that we were forced to take a look at what hurts, what needs healing, what needs restoration. And now that the weather is nice, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the summer, and I'm so grateful for the fall right now, because we're in a place where we can, see other people at a safe distance, and we can reconnect with our neighbors and our parish. And I really don't know where you live and where you are and what your parishes and archdiocese and diocese are doing. I live in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, so we've been back to Mass for a while now, and I am so grateful this has taught me to actually really appreciate the physical church and the pews. Just the pews, something I never thought about. Like, with little kids, we tried Mass at home, and it's rough in the pews, but the pews at least keep my children in a specific area for the most part. So we're back. And at first it was just me and my son, because my husband is a diabetic. So I do know that, when you're thinking about your own ministry and leaving your home during a pandemic, everyone's story is different and everyone's situation is different. And in our house, there's a balancing act, because this is very, very difficult for me, and I'm sure it's hard for all of you. But my husband has a whole different perspective as someone who's been in the intensive care unit from the regular flu because of his diabetes. So he kind of keeps me from just going and hugging everyone, And reminds me, how important it is to wear the mask and things like that. But I know everybody has their own thoughts on that. But the reality is, okay, we have to look at where we are and where our communities are. All right, so in the beginning, it was winter where I live. Everything was shut down, so we were with our families. And once the weather got nice, we were with our neighborhood and our parish. So, at first, when I was going to give this talk, I was going to talk about how you should host in-person events and you should run in-person events. And I still will talk about that a little bit, but I think what we need to do is reconnect with our parishes and go to them and find out, what is it that they're in need of right now, both from the perspective of the pastor, but also from the perspective of the community. I go to Mass now, and there's less people going to Mass still. Our parish is talking a lot about fundraising, and because less people are attending Mass, there's less envelopes being given into the parish. I mean, they're not even doing the basket thing. They just have that in the front because, again, that's another precaution. But less people there mean less money's getting into the basket. So, and then they want to have fundraisers, and every idea for a fundraiser is an in-person event, and that's kind of like, well, we don't know if we can plan that right now because a lot of that takes planning, and you don't know what's gonna happen in 2 months or 3 months if we're even going to be allowed to do what we're allowed to do now. So, my advice to you is see what your parish is doing already and see if you can be present with that. So my example, and I believe God gave me this talk and God gave me this example because he knew I would share it with you, is that our youth group is paired with 2 other parishes. So it's 3 parishes has 1 youth group, and there's a high school one and there's a middle school one, like for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And the middle school one is using the Be Yourself Journal. So their first meeting of the year was on my birthday, was last Sunday. So part of me was like, well, I don't really have to go. I could just video it. So I did. I videoed my introduction talk, put it on YouTube. And I did this because even if I went, if I was going to have to wear a mask, I didn't want to give a talk wearing a mask. I want people to see my smile. Hopefully I'm smiling most of the time. I want them to really see my expressions. So I thought, well, if I go and they're telling me I have to wear a mask during my talk, I'll just say, well, here's my talk and we can put it up on the screen because we have that technology. So I went, and it was an outdoor event because the weather was nice. They had the kids brought chairs, they brought their masks, and most of them wore them, and they spread them apart. And as each adult went up to talk, we did stay at a distance, but we took off our masks. So that was what we did. I don't know if it's totally acceptable, but here's what I like about the idea of us being present at a parish event. If you don't have an LLC, if you're worried about liability, it wasn't me holding the event, but I still went to the event and I still was present. Because I will be completely honest with you, I haven't been going places because I don't feel like wearing a mask. And the thinking that I've come to realize that maybe right now God wants me to pick up my cross and go, and that cross is the stupid mask that I don't want to wear. But that's my cross right now, and that's a lot of people's cross. I mean, the fact that I'm going to say, oh, I'm not going if I have to wear a mask, well, then I'm not ministering to people, and I'm not serving, and I'm not picking up my cross. So that's my personal experience, and I wanted to share that with you. So I think when we think about the pandemic and what's going on in our communities and in our country and in our world, we really just have to take a look at what are people doing now and how can I be a part of it. And I think that's important because we get so comfortable behind these screens that it's not a full experience. Like when I went to talk to these middle school kids, you know, there was one boy there where he was like, this woman is lame, you know, and that experience of humility, I was like, you know, I powered through it and I smiled, but there was that, okay, you know, you have to remember this crowd, it can be tough, and that's a lesson in humility and something I can offer up and pray about. And now I know, like, because I could see, you know, I could see that boy. I'm like, I'm going to work on him. I'm going to get to him, you know, but you can't see that behind a screen. So it really is important that we look and see, you know, if our parish or if our local communities, our local Catholic communities are coming together, is there a way we can go and serve? So that was the first thing. Now here's the second thing. The reason why I picked this topic is because every year I have a prayer, wine, chocolate retreat. And I was thinking, I guess I can't do it this year, you know? And then I thought, well, maybe people need it more than ever. People are dying. Like, there are some diehards I have, like, every year. They come to this prayer, wine, chocolate retreat. They are moms. We're about the same age. And the two, I'm picturing two right now. They tell me this is Christmas to them. This is like Christmas morning. They they tell their husbands, you need to not work. You need to be available. I am going to this thing for the day. And I'm doing this for myself. And they do this once a year for themselves. And they look forward to it. They get to pray. They get to meditate. They get quiet. They get their connection with God. And they get to talk to other women and get to drink wine. And it is something that they truly enjoy. And I thought, they need it even more this year because we've been limited in our fellowship, in our Catholic fellowship. So I thought, though, I have to be careful. You know, if you're hosting an event, heaven forbid somebody got sick. You know, so I have to think different. You know, I have to do it differently this year. So I thought, well, how can I do this differently? Because normally, if you don't know, the prayer, wine, chocolate retreat is everyone meets at a shrine in the morning. And we do our shrine tour, we do our praying, we get Mass. We usually do it on a Sunday. So we go to Mass. A lot of times we go to confession. And then at lunchtime, we get a bus or a van and we get picked up and we get driven to a winery or two. We actually do 2 wineries, and then the bus brings us back to our cars at the end of the day. And I thought, I need to do this differently this year. I don't want to get a van that's too close. You know, again, the masks. So I thought, and this is still a work in progress, what we're going to do is we'll just meet at one of the wineries, one of the vineyards. Everybody can bring a blanket. Everyone can bring their own food, and we can pray the rosary together and then eat lunch. And after, we can do the wine. You can still, it's not a tasting, but you can still get wine at this one winery and sit outside. So I thought we'll do it that way. And then I thought, well, gosh, wouldn't it be so great to have Mass at a vineyard? And then I started thinking, like, what are the rules? I know that I've been to Mass outside, but I don't know, like, certain dioceses don't allow it. I don't know. So I just messaged a priest that I've never met in person. We're friends on Facebook. And I said, could it be possible for a priest to, you know, have Mass outside, say at a vineyard? And he said, yeah, sure, I don't see why not. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that's going to be tough, though. How am I going to get a priest to do that, especially when we normally have it on a Sunday? You know, if there's the busiest day of the week for priests. So I just wrote back to him, like, So if you know anyone, he's like, I'll make a long story short. And it wasn't even that long. Within a day, within 5 hours, this priest said, I can do it on that date that you normally do it. I can be there around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So, I mean, I still have to call the winery, the vineyard, but I already have a priest. You know, I think God wants us to do these things. Just understand that it's not going to be the same. And now, if you're a Catholic speaker or you're doing these things because you not only want to serve, but your spouse lets you do it because you're bringing in some money, it's going to look different. You know, normally for the prayer, wine, chocolate retreat, I charge and I pay for the ticket price, pays for the van. you know, pays for the lunch, pays for all the expenses, and there might be a little left over. I'm not going to do that this year. I'm going to say, this is where we're going. If you want to come, I will be there. And I'm going to ask for donations because I'm going to want to hopefully give the priest some money. I mean, he's driving in from the city. It's not around the corner. But I'm just going to ask for donations. That's a page out of Allison Gingriss's playbook. You know, she's run a lot of events, and that was her advice to me. You know, you ask for donations, and sometimes the basket gets full and sometimes it doesn't, but it all evens out because God does provide. So so that's my personal take on in-person events. Like, you're gonna have to think outside the box and do things differently, but that doesn't mean you don't do it. John brought up something in his talk. He said, and he made me laugh, he said, when's the last time you invite your neighbor over for a cup of coffee? For me, it's probably been 5 years. And here, you know, that made me laugh, but, you know, we're being pulled back. We're seeing community in the way it has been for all of human history up until modern times. You know, people, God put us in the place we are physically for a reason. So, you know, our neighborhoods and our neighbors are perfect opportunities for us to evangelize. And I'm so lucky where I live. One of the girls up the street is one of my rosary girls, and I went there like 2 weeks ago or a week ago, and we sat on the deck, and we sat 6 feet apart, 4 feet apart, and we prayed the rosary together. And I mean, such a blessing to be able to do that. But I like how John said you have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, because that's a struggle I've been having. I get so nervous for in-person events. And so to a point where I'm like, well, maybe God just wants me to write. And I think what John said, and what John often says, why aren't you doing this? What a great friend to have. But I'm so, you know, I'm so grateful for all of you to talk about these things when we're thinking about these things and hearing other people's view. You have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. John said that, and I'm actually reading Jen Fulwiler's book, The Blue Flame now, or Finding Your Blue Flame, and in it she talks about you have to love the bomb, because she's now doing stand-up comedy, and I think she got that from somebody. You have to love the bomb. Like, you have to go, and even if nobody seems to be getting you, you have to embrace it, you know? And when John said that, it made me think of that, and it's like, you know what, I think a lot of us hesitate, like, who am I to stand up and talk about anything? Well, you are who you are, and God wants you to tell your story. That doesn't mean you think you're better than anybody else. It just means that people want to feel like somebody has been where they are, somebody has thought what they thought, and that God has worked in your life, and God can work in my life too. And maybe God has worked in their life, but they just need somebody to share their own story to realize that, oh yeah, that was God. That was not a coincidence. So, I don't know. I am hoping that you are able to connect with somebody in person, and that you are not saying, well, if I have to wear a mask, I'm not going to go, because I heard that loud and clear with God. Like, I was saying that, and I still say that. You can be selective. You don't have to go everywhere, but don't go nowhere. Don't allow yourself to be completely cut off from the community that is right outside your door. I think that's important. So I'm going to leave on that note, and if you have any questions or other things you think I should have talked about, please let me know. And I look forward to talking to you, and I also look forward to tonight. Hopefully we can connect virtually and, you know, just enjoy each other. So stay tuned, and thank you so much for being here and for doing what you do. Talk to you soon. Bye.